Thank you so much for joining us here, spending your Saturday night in downtown Sacramento. My name is Lora Painter, weeknight evening anchor for ABC 10, and I want to welcome you back to our home here at the Safe Credit Union Performing Arts Center for our beloved Sacramento Philharmonic for opening night of our brand new season. This is so exciting. It feels so good to see all of you here. And joining me on stage are our special guests. Very special guests, and we'll get into even more what an important night this is. Sitting here on my right is a familiar voice that you may hear every morning, Chris Campbell, morning host at CAP Public Radio. Round of applause and welcome. If you ever have been served. And also the very beautiful and talented, our conductor, our maestra for the evening, Cosette Justo Valdés. This is a very special evening. Not only is it our opening night, but also this is your debut in the U.S.
Yes.
So a warm welcome. Bienvenido a Sacramento.
Thank you, gracias, muchas gracias. Everybody understands that.
She is originally from Cuba. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up in Cuba and the music that you were listening to and what influenced you to get into music?
Thank you, that's a beautiful question. Long to answer, but I'll try to be brief. I was born and raised in Cuba. I left the country for the very first time in my life at the age of 29 years old, so I really grew up there. And my parents are, well, my father passed away some months ago, but my mother is very young and very well, thank God. They were both amateur musicians. He played guitar and she was studying dance when she had to interrupt her dream, unfortunately, in that regard. But she was always a singer, and she is still a singer. She can sing any song of any genre of our Spanish-speaking repertoire that there is. So they want to hope the best for me and arranged for me to do an exam to study music. And still to today, the system for music there is for free, but the spaces are really limited. So we want one space per town per year. And I had to do that exam and was lucky enough to win that position and study music there. So music is everywhere, every corner. We all are, people always ask me when I care a lot about percussion and rhythm within the orchestra, whether they are percussion instruments or not. And I particularly may go with friends with percussionists, and they ask me always, are you a percussionist? And I answer, no, I'm just Cuban.
Well, that's a good enough excuse for me. I love it. So you were born into music and born to play. And likewise, Chris, as well, you are from Music City, Motown, and growing up with that music and lots of different musical influences, you are also, and I say this lovingly, a music nerd as well, and fellow journalist. So this is a rare treat for me to speak with you. Tell me about your musical influences and what you grew up listening to and how you came to be in your position now.
All right. Well, yes, growing up in Detroit, everyone thinks of the Motown sound. So yeah, Berry Gordy, Diana Ross, the Supremes, the Temptations, that was the foundation. But you know, Detroit is such a rich musical hub. So in addition to the Motown sound, you had a great rock scene, you had a great R&B, rhythm and blues scene, techno and electronica as well. And then we had a great symphonic orchestra. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra is known basically around the world as one of the top symphonies. And so I came from that rich cultural mosaic. And then just growing up in a household where my mother encouraged a love of music, and my sister and I, you know, she made us take lessons when we were young. My sister was a musical prodigy. She was basically starting at age 3 years old. So I was exposed through her to a lot of the classical greats. Beethoven, Mozart, DVORZHÁK.
Nice.
All of that came through my sister. Now, I wasn't quite as good as her. I think I had more talent in just finding music on the radio dial. So I kind of gravitated more towards broadcasting, but I'm happy that my sister made the trek all the way from Detroit,
Where is
Michigan.
your sister?
She is a classically trained jazz artist now, who's about to be ready to release her first album. So that was the musical foundation that I was cut from. And then basically around the city, since I was in broadcasting, NPR outlet there, WDET, we were tied to all of the big music venues in Detroit. So the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater, I hosted the Wednesday Jazz Series, which came to have international renown. The Aretha Franklin Amphitheater sits right on the Detroit River, borders Detroit as well as Canada. So we get a lot of international interaction and engagement with Canada as a result. And of course the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, I hosted their Paradise Jazz Series and many of their other classical events. So it's from that cloth that I came here when the job opened for a morning edition host for Sacramento. A few people pointed me towards that. They said that this would be a great move for you. Sacramento is an emergent musical town, a musical hub. The downtown, I'm just so in love with downtown and just the cultural infusion and just the mix of people here and the love of the arts. So I've been just greatly impressed with Sacramento. I just recently reached my 1-year anniversary here.
Nice.
And I love this town. I love it.
So you were here when the Kings were doing really well, right?
Yeah.
The Kings Mania, Lighting the Beam. Okay.
Lighting the Beam. And actually, Chris Webber is, because I was in media in Detroit, I interviewed Chris Webber, and we have a pretty decent friendship. And in talking with him before I came here, he was just like, yeah, support the Kings. You know, they've had a long drought, but support the Kings. They've got a great team and great management behind them. So I think I'm coming to Sacramento at just the right time.
Yes.
This place is new. The Sacramento Philharmonic is an emergent group that is showing so much support for culture and the arts, and the Kings. The Kings are a great team. So yeah, we're firing all cylinders out here.
Fantastic. So let's dive into the pieces that we're going to be performing and hearing tonight. Aaron Copland, an American legend, right, in the music scene and part of our history and our heritage. The Lincoln Portrait. Copland and Lincoln, American icons. And Cosette, let's start with you. When it comes to conducting a piece that has, this is where Chris will be featured, with the spoken word. How do you as a conductor prepare for a piece that is not necessarily choral? It's not choral, but there is human voice involved. I wonder what the score would look like. Are the words still printed there like lyrics? Where do you start in preparing all of our players for a piece like that?
Well, this is every time that a piece of music involves other art forms, I love it. I find that, yeah, it will touch more people and it will be very direct. This is the case. Using the very inspiring words of Lincoln, again, this is my first time doing this piece, actually, and also doing it here. So it's huge because I chose the piece. Chose the program, right? So I wanted to do an American-themed program for my debut in the States because I am very grateful to be here. And Copland was an incredible composer, genius composer, sometimes underrated even. He was greater than we speak about. And the words are printed in the score and creating pace. Some work we were doing was creating a pace where the music actually adapts to the words, more than the words to the music, because the words need to be understood, felt. And I cry every time I read the text and I study it and I think about it, because it's so inspiring, it's so full of hope, it's appealing to the best of humans, right? And this is a country that was built on that, on those hopes, and has welcomed so many from so many places. So, yeah, it's basically the musicians, everybody is very aware of the words, and that's the preparation. In the rehearsals, we're playing our parts, but we're listening. And Chris is a legendary presence in this piece with his incredible voice and pace. So we're going to be paying attention to him.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, tell me, what does this piece mean for you, and how are you preparing? What are you channeling? What energy and what inspiration are you drawing upon as you're reading these very powerful words that we're going to be hearing tonight?
Well, for me, the words represent a certain timelessness, and in the times that we're living in today, they couldn't be more fitting. And it's such a poignant piece, but also a piece and a slice of what Americana does represent and should represent. And just watching Cosette, who to me is just a force of nature, her conducting style is just one of the most beautiful and powerfully impactful.
Please be careful, don't expect too much.
Please go on.
her conducting style is just otherworldly. So it really makes my job very easy. You know, you'll see just how she mechanically just sets the stage in terms of the orchestra and kind of works in the words to this, and I just follow her steps. So I think the audience is going to be treated to not only a symphonic masterpiece, but also just an inspirational, oratorical presence that we should be striving for. This is more than us. It's symbolic of really what America is all about, in all of its trials, tribulations, and triumphs.
We have a lot to expect and look forward to. Very exciting, very exciting.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. No. Well, I want to get into that a little deeper into the piece. Let's expand on the Lincoln portrait. Copland, sonically, how does he represent America? How does he, through sound and through notes, show us and the imagery what America is? Cosette, your thoughts?
Oh, the prairies, the space, hope, freedom. Copland's music is so pure, it's so honest, it's so transparent. He doesn't pretend to be and write what he's not or what he's not feeling. You know, he was a city boy. Copland wasn't a guy from the farms, right? But he understood the spirit and studied in ways that he could really, in music, touch our hearts. It touches mine. I mean, from Cuba, I would know the States from fields. That's all I knew. And some things are true, some things are not. But I could feel that intense sense of hope. And you will feel, well, you all know this piece. This is a piece that we never get tired of listening. It doesn't matter how many times. And it's just that cleaning of our hearts. It's just going to the best parts. And the sound is like, it's very pure, it's very transparent. The lines, the flutes, trumpet, and then, you know, the distance, you can feel space, you can see green, you can see people, you can see people working, you can see people creating, loving each other. It's a wonderful masterpiece.
It's amazing, the power of music indeed. And I was reading somewhere, this is a commissioned piece, it was written during World War II, and originally they had wanted Walt Whitman to be the subject of this, so when you finally do hear it, bear in mind how different it might have been. I mean, of course, President Lincoln. Tell us, Chris, what Copland's music means for you, and as an American, how do you think he sonically represents what our country means? And especially with this piece, too. I've been listening to it nonstop all day.
Yeah, one thing about Copland that's always impressed me is that he had an elevated sense of humanity. And that's reflected in this piece, as Cosette just beautifully laid out as well. You'll see and feel and envision just the visceral nature of it. You feel the optimism. You see his vision for where we could go, and he's so optimistic about us, not only as Americans, but as a human race, you know? And just as an African American, you know, it really resonates with me, because there's always been this sense of equality, and we're all part of the same mission, and we're all in the same boat, and we're all trying to row in the same direction. And we're all trying to reach our potential as a people, as a nation. You feel all of that in Copland's pieces. So I get an elevated sense of optimism, hope, but also just humanity, because at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
And those traits really resonate in Copland's pieces, especially in this one.
Yes, thank you for sharing that insight. I appreciate it a lot, and so do our audience members as well. Talking about the Williams piece, this composer may not be very familiar with the casual classical music fan. Can you tell us more, Cosette, about this piece and what it means? The lyrics are in English. I sense a bit of some religious tones to it as well. Beautiful, soaring choral piece. Tell us about this piece and what it means for you and what we can expect tonight.
Yes, thank you. I programmed this piece is not known by everyone, even specialists. And I knew it from before programming for this concert. And I fell in love with it. It's just 7 minutes long, it's not very long. And we wanted to feature our wonderful chorus here, and in English. So I was looking, again, this is not, I'm in Canada only for 4 years, so I'm not yet as familiar with the American, North American repertoire of things that are played mostly here. But I did my research and I remembered this piece that I knew from some years ago. This, I think, is a great time to appeal to whatever we believe in. It's a piece written to praise God and to ask for His help and for humans to be free from sin. And I feel that, as Chris was mentioning about Copland, is also very, very fitting to the needs of these times. This piece also brings us, Copland is more the human aspect of the best of us, and I find that this piece is more the divinity within us, whatever we believe in. And the chorus is divided into the cani and the cantor. It's basically 2 choruses. We'll see a little bit of distance between them. They are fantastic. They were so prepared. And you will feel the antiphonal interaction between the 2 choruses, and also sometimes them unifying and singing together. You will hear the soprano singing one line that can also be sung by children. So it's like a more wide voices moment. And yeah, I find this piece, I mean, Vaughan Williams is a composer that was a great symphonist, incredible composer, sometimes underrated too, and he was fantastic. So this piece, I think, is a gem. It's a very short dessert for this and ending our first half. And I find that it's a way to express our gratitude for having a wonderful chorus, for having everyone in the orchestra together, and having our wonderful audience back.
Cool. And then, Chris, the power of the human voice. We were just mentioning a choral piece that we'll be having, and your special performance as well in the Lincoln Portrait, and of course your lovely, amazing skill every day that you use as well on the radio. What is it about the human voice as an instrument for you? You know, its power in sharing the tapestry with the orchestra. Any thoughts you want to share on that?
Well, it just adds another layer to the symphonic arrangement. In the audience, you're getting these beautiful soundscapes, and oftentimes, and having a conductor as skilled as Cosette, you know, a lot of these symphonic arrangements are open to interpretation, you know, based on just how skillful the orchestra and the conductor is at the distillation of those. So when it comes to the human voice, you're adding just another layer into this. And the particular piece that I'm sharing, and I went back on YouTube and just looked up some of the distinguished orators that have actually contributed their voices to the performances of Lincoln's Portrait. Paul Robeson, James Earl Jones, Felicia Rashad, and I was just, the different styles, the divergent layers that they put into those pieces. You're communicating messages, not only the original intent of Copland and then showing the potential of Lee as America and the cultural zeitgeist or the cultural aesthetic Americana, but also you're putting your own personal hopes and dreams into this. And so with this piece, I guess some of my personal aspirations are coming across in the way those words are framed. And Copland just had such a way, just the words, they have universal appeal. They appeal to the best of us. And I think at the core of all of us, we all want to reach our potential. We all want to see our fellow man reach their potential and be the best that they can be. That comes across in this. And I think having a spoken word element really articulates that message.
We're excited for your rendition tonight.
Thank you.
And of course, the piece de resistance of this concert here, the Anton Dvorak New World Symphony, there are some key moments, some key movements, I'm sure everyone will recognize. The Largo and the Allegro, very, very popular. I want to get into what that piece means for you, and also some of your first musical experiences. Dvorak hits home for me. Middle school band, how my band director somehow managed to get us to the teeniest, tiniest diminuendo, pianissimo, a room full of 12-year-olds playing the Largo. So I wonder, we tried to rock on, yeah, I think we nailed it. Cosette, the composer Dvorak, new to America, very impressed with our landscape and our history. What does this piece mean for you, and what can we expect with our performance tonight?
Thank you. You will do your homework.
Let's go give a hand clap for her.
Yeah, right? She's great. Great interview. Dvorak 9 from the New World is a symphony that I'm listening to since before I knew I wanted to be a conductor. I remember I was given for my birthday my very first CD ever. I didn't even have where to play it. A friend had to give me the player, record player, for me to use it. I was 14 years old, in boarding school, studying with music, but we didn't have an orchestra in our city. So all I could do was listening to or watch videos, and only then I could imagine what an orchestra was. And the Ninth Symphony of Dvorak was there, and I remember I would listen to it again and again and again, and ask her, can I play? Can I have it for 1 more hour? With the headphones and would be there. It was my own CD. So it has been in my heart since then. I performed it in Cuba, and this symphony, I mean, is universal. Yes, Dvorak was here. He was director of the Conservatory of the National Conservatory of America in New York, and he was based here. The symphony was premiered here in 1893, and he expressed that he didn't try to use folkloric Native American tunes or melodies, but the spirit of it, right? He himself had used folk from his land, so and he expressed that when you listen to folkloric music from different countries, cultures, continents, there is so much in common. In Canada, for example, when I arrived there only 4 years ago, and I live there now, when I listen to the indigenous music there, it's like Cuba in a way. It has a lot in common. It doesn't sound, it's not the same. And African music has to do a lot with African music, of course. So in folk, in rhythms, in the sense of pentatonic melodies, there is a connection for all folks, almost all folks in the world. So Dvorak was very good at transmitting the spirit of what he brought with him and what he discovered here, right? And you can feel like the third movement is the spirit of a dance, literally. And you can see the landscapes as something in common with Copland, right? You can see the prairies that DVOŘák was embraced by here, the sense of space, the nostalgia. It's a piece full of so many emotions.
Yes, thank you, Cosette. And as you are listening to these pieces tonight, get that imagery in your heads as you're listening to it, right? The landscapes, the sweeping vastness of our country. I hear the musicians getting ready behind us. I want to give Chris just a quick response or a quick chance to respond to your thoughts on the New World Symphony, just very quickly as we are about to wrap up our pre-concert chat here. But what thoughts would you like to share?
Well, Sacramento, you are so fortunate to have an orchestra with such layers and nuances and just the pieces that have been selected. Williams, to me, is one of the most underrated composers.
Yeah.
In Detroit, there's this thing, we've got dueling pianos in a lot of these jazz bars and things like that. And to me, Williams is like the classical equivalent of that, you know. So you get these divergent and dueling arrangements, and they just take you different places. And even with Copland, it just takes you there. It's a transformational journey. And so you're just so fortunate to get these visionary pieces performed, first of all selected, but then performed for your enjoyment. Wow.
We're certainly in for a treat. Another round of applause.
And I would like to say also that we are lucky to have you as a